The Ford Bronco Sport is your gateway to the great outdoors.
With standard.
That's not music. Well, hi, everybody. While Mr. Sonny Folks tries to get the music queued up, let me welcome you to another edition of the Press Pros Huddle Show here on.
There will be no music.
There will be no music tonight. The band is on strike. We are happy to have you with us. We are looking forward to being joined by Tippecanoe head coach Matt Burgbacher at 8:40 or thereabouts, and the Red Devils play host to Mount Healthy on Friday night in the first round of the OHSAA playoffs. We got everybody playing. Did anybody get left out, Sonny? Do we have anybody
No, everybody's playing.
All right.
There's even a couple of intramural teams playing.
Yeah, we got everybody in the top 16, so that's a good thing. We'll run down the schedule. Tip and Mount Healthy, oddly enough, have played each of the last 2 seasons, I believe, maybe even longer than that. They met in the playoffs last year, and Tip came out an 11-6 winner. Matt's got a nice year going there, 8-2. I'm surprised they're a 7 seed in their region at 8-2. Mount Healthy is 6-4. Let's go through some of the other games that we have. We've got Fort Recovery will play Anna in Division 6. Delphus will play Coldwater. Also D6, Ansonia. We move to St. Henry. Ansonia and St. Henry's a D7 game. Lockland and New Bremen, that's a 10-7 game in D7. Springfield Catholic Central Fort Loramie is the 8-9 game. And then we move. I don't have Marion Local in front of me. I forget who are the Flyers going to take the measure of on Friday night.
Well, I've got it here. I've somehow kind of got it in front of me here, but I would say that they're going to be a rather rude host to Twin Valley South.
Yeah, I wrote down the games that I thought might actually be somewhat competitive because, as we have talked about, and we don't need to relitigate it here, Sonny and I, neither one are a big fan of 16 teams in each region being in the playoffs. We thought 8 was a good number, 12 I could live with, 16 I think is an abomination for the teams that are going to be hopelessly overmatched, and every 16 and 15 will be in their region. I think we'll see. It'll be interesting to know if we get a number, Sonny, percentage of games on Friday and Saturday night that have a running clock, which, if you guys don't know, becomes the way that the game is played once one team is up 30-0.
In the second half.
In the second half, yeah. They don't do that in the first half. We will have games that'll be 30+ in the first half on Friday and Saturday night.
I don't mean to be glib about this, but I just wonder how many Ohio high school football coaches can look you in the eye come Sunday after 63-0 and 77 to whatever, just after 5, 6, 7 touchdown margins in some of these games, and sit there and talk about the great tradition of Ohio high school football. This is not what I would call, if you'll pardon the expression, respecting the game. Now, if you want to talk about participation and inclusion, which everybody wants to, see my column tomorrow called Commentary on Commentary. I guess you can't get enough of it. But look, I'll give you one example. In Division 1 in Cincinnati, Oak Hills is 0-10 playing number 1 seed Moeller. That's a great big old have mercy. An 0-10 team makes the playoffs. I want somebody from Columbus to call me and tell me how that's a good idea. How that's good for kids.
Let's hope nobody gets hurt in that game. Nobody from Oak Hill and nobody from Moeller, because that would be a shame. We want to remind you that our show is presented by our friends at visitcanton.com, awesome partners at PressProsMagazine.com, and they are excited and we're excited for State Football Championship weekend, December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium, right beside the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But yes, there is much more to do in Canton than just go to the Hall of Fame. There's great shopping, dining, lodging, and you need to go to visitcanton.com to find out all the events that are going on right now or coming up in the next few weeks as we build toward 5 weeks of high school football playoffs, culminating in that first weekend of December in Canton. So go to visitcanton.com or click on the visitcanton.com logos that you will find embedded throughout PressProsMagazine.com content on the site from now until we reach Canton, where we will crown state champions. And we are hopeful that we will have a Central Ohio team in Division 1. We have 4 or 5 teams in the top 10. We have Piqua,
Got a shot at it.
Yep, Pickwa's got a shot at it in Division II. I mean, Tipp is, like I said, I don't know how Tipp is a 7 at 8-2. They're a strong contender in D3 and D4. Milton Union, I think, is highly undervalued. Milton is also a 7. In D5, Versailles is a pretty strong 5. I do not envy the teams that have to play the 4 that has to play Versailles. I do not envy them next week because I think they will have their way with Summit Country Day. And then we get down to Division 6 and Division 7, and we are just awash in all kinds of teams in Division 6 and 7. We got Marion Local, we got Coldwater, we got St. Henry, we got New Bremen, we got Mechanicsburg, we got West Jefferson. I mean, we are just loaded up in all those teams, Sonny, with state championship contenders. And here's a number for you, folks. 8 of the last 9 years, the Midwest Athletic Conference has had 2 or more teams play for a state championship. 8 of the last 9 years. So that's why we're excited for State Football Championship weekend. And part of the reason why we are excited to partner with visitcanton.com.
Well, I just have one caveat about visitcanton.com, and that is if you are an Oak Hills follower, give it 2 or 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's a couple. We have a couple people weighing in on the expanded playoffs. Justin says, Chris Cavender, OHSAA want more money. Jim says, got to make that money. And Chris, first of all, asked, what's the logic behind even going to 16 teams? Well, I think their other 2 friends just answered that question for you. Jody wants to know, will Fort Loramie beat Sydney? Fort Loramie is a Division 7 school. That was in response to Justin wanting to know if Sydney or Edgewood will win. I'm not sure what the seedings are on that one.
I don't have them. I don't have them in front of me. Edgewood is a pretty good football team, and the one thing about Edgewood, Justin, if you're not familiar with them, historically they are a very disciplined team that goes out there and plays it close to the vest, and they don't beat themselves. So if that gives you an idea about how they match up with Sydney, you gotta be on your A game to go and beat them, especially when they're the home team.
Well, without further ado, let's find out about one of the games that we will be staffing, and it is a Friday night game. It is the Tippecanoe Red Devils against the Mount Healthy Owls, and we're happy to have Coach Matt Burgbacher joining us. Matt, always good to see you. Congratulations on a really good year.
Hey, thank you, guys. Appreciate you guys having me. Obviously, when Bruce texted me the other day, we must be doing something right here in Tipp to get the honor to be on the Bruce Hooley and Sonny Folk show.
Sonny would like you to reverse those names in terms of priority.
My only question, Matt, is, you're 8-2. How did you get to be a 7 seed when you're 8-2? And I'm sure you just heard some of the conversation we had about teams this year that are in the playoffs. There are 71 teams with sub 500 records that made the playoffs, and Oak Hills is in at 0-10 playing Moeller. How in the world are you a 7 seed?
Well, you look at our region's stacked. You got Kettering Alter, that's a 15 seed. So it's one of those that, hey, we just wanted an opportunity to get in. And yeah, we're a 7 seed, but to be the best, you got to beat the best. So we've got a tough road ahead of us, but I know our kids are looking forward to it. And, the chips fell where they fell. And we're not complaining about it. We get a home game on Friday. Hopefully we come out with a win, and then we'll live to play another week. So, we're just focused on Mount Healthy. They're a very good football team, and we have played them the last 2 years, and should be a great game there at City Park.
How much does it help you having played them last year and won 11-6? How much did you learn from that game that gives you any kind of picture or advantage this year?
I think the biggest thing we learned is we can compete with them. We went down there 2 years ago, and it was my first game here at Tipp, and we were right in that ball game. And then when they had a 6'4", 250-pound quarterback that carried the ball 30 times, we struggled to tackle him in the second half. Last year, they're very athletic, and our kids proved that we gave up 6 points to them. And for us, that was awesome. So our kids are confident. It's kind of just, it's kind of similar to Troy. We lost to Troy my first year here, and then we beat them in 2020. And our kids had that confidence of we could do it again, and we did. So I think we're kind of in that same boat where we proved that we can beat Mount Healthy and we can compete with them and go out there and win the ball game.
Well, Matt, you, I think, started in as tough a circumstances you can possibly start when you went to Tip in the COVID year. I mean, that torched your summer program. And we caught up with you down there when you were allowed to have practice. But I know that you were frustrated, as most coaches were that fall, by your lack of ability to get your hands on guys. And now 8-2 this season, it shows, I think, that once you were able to really coach your team like you wanted to coach your team, it's probably, I would assume, been a whole lot easier to get your system in and get them to really understand everything.
Absolutely. It's, the more time you can spend with your kids, obviously, the better off you're going to be, as long as you use that time wisely. The unique thing we have here at Tip is we have so many 3-sport athletes, not 2-sport athletes. So, during the winter and spring, if we want to see our football players, we got to go to baseball games. We got to go to track meets. We got to go in the winter to wrestling meets, to basketball games. But that's what I think makes a well-rounded athlete. And at Tip, all of us head coaches, we get along great. And we understand we have to share our athletes. So, it's not like our kids are sitting at home doing nothing. Our kids are being active. Yeah, we would love for them to be in the weight room a little bit more, but when they're playing basketball, they're working footwork, they're doing agility, they're doing all kinds of stuff every day. And I think that really pays off. And you see our athletic programs right now, our soccer team, our basketball teams, and I'm just not talking boys, I'm talking girls too. All of our male and female sports teams are very successful. And I think it goes to say that, we love sharing our athletes and we want our athletes playing multiple sports. So yeah, during the COVID year, that was different, but we know for a fact that our kids were working out. Our kids were doing things, on their own to get ready because they knew we were going to play. We just didn't know when. So when we did get them, they were in great shape and they were ready to go.
Matt, almost every time that you and I get together, we have at some point in the conversation, the question comes up. You talk about the progress you make from one year to the next. This is your third year, and 8-2 record this year notwithstanding. Are you satisfied with the progress of your program? I know when we talked in the summer at a baseball game one night, you said, hey, we've got a lot of kids. We've got a lot of kids interested. We're going to have some options here. We're going to have some depth. But overall, are you satisfied in year 3, given the fact of the cumulative record of the Miami Valley League North competition that you played? Are you satisfied with the progress and the steps that you made with the overall program?
Absolutely. I'm very satisfied with where we are, but that's not going to slow us down. We are going to keep pushing. Sure. We want to be the best, and we don't want to compare our program to anybody else. We want to make the Tippecanoe football program the best it can be. And, obviously each year we have gotten a little bit better and the kids have learned. We've had, this will be the third year where we've had a great senior class. And when I say that, it may not be the best athletes. They're just great kids. And they lead by example. And these juniors that are going to be seniors next year, they want to do the same thing that these last 3 classes have done. And you're only going to be as good as your senior class. And we've had 3 good senior classes. And I would suspect next year is going to be the same. You look at our JV team, they're 9-1. Our freshman team was 5-3. Our 7th grade team was 8-0. So you just don't build a varsity program. You got to build a whole program, and that starts down at the peewee level, at the middle school level. And those kids, we want our older kids to be active in that because those younger kids are going to eventually be your varsity players someday. And they want to be like those guys, and they love being around these older guys. So I think when you see that stuff on Friday night, when there's a little tunnel there with all kinds of peewee football players and cheerleaders and everybody else there wanting to slap the hand of these varsity guys, you're doing something right.
Across the state, the number one lament of coaches, and I know them almost from border to border, somebody from border to border, is depth. And the last person 3 years ago you would have looked at and said, they're going to have 80 kids, 85 kids in uniform in a couple of years, would have been Tip City. And somehow you've done that.
We have, and that's the thing. We've created that excitement, and we try to make it enjoyable for the kids. And at Tip, and where I've been at Troy and Fort Laramie, it's more than football. And these kids, yes, we talk about the life lessons and all that stuff, but we truly live those. And I think our kids really enjoy being there. I know when I left a program 3 years ago, people called me crazy because, you can't go to Tip and win in the MVL and the GWalk and all that stuff. But when you have good kids that are willing to work and coachable, you can do a lot of things. And when you get those kids believing in what they're doing and their teammates and their program, you can make anything happen. And I think we're proof of that this year.
Yep. Matt Burgbacher, head coach at Tip, is our guest. They play Mount Healthy on Friday night at 7:00 at Tip. And Matt, I kind of lost track of you guys after you beat Troy. I know you had a big night rushing the football that night. I think it was Caden Everhart had a big night for you. Have you continued to lean on the running game primarily, or you feel a little bit better about your ability to be maybe more balanced against Mount Healthy than you were that night against Troy?
I think, we have become more balanced. We had a new starting quarterback this year, and Liam got off to a rough start week 1 against Bellbrook, but a lot of teams have had a rough game against Bellbrook. But he has just gotten better and better. Cade Everhart, we had a few injuries there after the Troy game, so we did lean on Cade a little bit more. Now we're getting some of those guys back. Hopefully we'll have a couple of them back this week and another one back next week. But, we want to be balanced. But the other night, Cade Everhart against Greenville carried the ball 37 times for 246 yards and made 14 tackles on defense. That's a football player. And Cade's done a great job for us. But we've had a lot of kids step up. Our offensive line has just continued to get better and better. And this is one of the bigger offensive lines Tip has ever had. So we kind of got all the pieces, but we're still putting those pieces together. And that's the exciting thing. We're week 11 and we still haven't played our best game yet. So we're excited to be able to hopefully do that on Friday night and then more so after Friday night.
Matt, if I were to talk about this half dozen top playoff teams around the area, almost every one of them, if you look at Marion Local, they got a dynamic playmaker at quarterback in Peyton Oddie, David Holman at New Bremen. You know who these kids are. And but I want to talk about Liam in that respect. I don't think he doesn't strike me as a dynamic playmaker, but I think he is a dynamic facilitator. He seems like the kind of guy that just gets the ball to the people who can make the plays for you.
Absolutely. He started out the year, he was a little under 50%. He's up over 60% completion. He's thrown for 1,200 yards, 13 touchdowns. But he does do a great job of getting the ball. It's not like we're throwing the ball 60 or 70 yards down the field. We're supplementing our outside run game with some quick passes on the outside, but we've got those guys that we can get the ball to out there on the outside and allow them to make plays. Because in the newspaper on Saturday morning, it says he threw a 45-yard touchdown pass. Well, he threw the ball 10 yards. And we got guys that can make plays and get it in the end zone. But Liam is a great manager of the game. We run that up-tempo offense, and we want to get as many snaps as we can on offense, and that all starts with the quarterback, But I think as the season has gone on, the confidence Liam's teammates have had in him has grown tremendously. And when you have that, you've got an opportunity to make great things happen.
Matt, is Mount Healthy, are they a fast-paced offensive team as well? Are they going to try to slow you down, shorten the football game? You know them well. You've played them the last 2 seasons. What do you expect? What do you have to stop and be wary of?
They're going to slow the game down. They take their time in getting the plays in, and they want to be. They're very methodical in what they do, but they got a tremendous run game. The Trey Cornist is going to be right up there with the Medley kid from Piqua and the short kid from Greenville. He's a big bruising running back that just he gets those tough yards. I think he's got 1,300. the Montgomery kid that's the starting running back for the Chicago Bears, his younger brother is the quarterback down at Mount Healthy. So he's obviously he's very athletic, but they want to establish the run. So we know, and they've got our Piqua film and they got our Greenville film. Piqua had a lot of success against us running the ball, and then Greenville had some early in the game. So we know they're going to come in here and try to run the ball. But the nice thing for us is we got a 5-minute drive to City Park from Tipp High School. They got about an hour and 10-minute drive up from Cincinnati to City Park. So obviously we want to use that as an advantage, and hopefully they got a little bus lag there and getting off the bus and that stuff. And we want to get off to that fast start, and we want to push that tempo early in the game.
Now, Justin tossed in a little congratulations here on your 100th win, Matt. Now, that one eluded me. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that was this past Friday. I got my 100th win, as a head football coach. But as I told everybody, you win with people. I think there was a famous Ohio State football coach that had said that. But that's so true. When you surround yourself with great people, you have an opportunity to be successful. And I've coached in 3 great, communities with Fort Laramie and Troy and Tipp, and, very supportive, from the fans, the parents, the kids, all that stuff. So, it's a great accomplishment, but I certainly didn't do it by myself. I got a very supportive family, and I've had great assistant coaches, great kids. So it's been a true team effort.
Did by the way, for your 100th win, did you get some special or exotic flavor of Gatorade dumped on you after the game, or was it just red or blue?
No, it was ice cold water, and I found a few ice cubes in my shirt there afterwards. So it was nice and chilly. Good thing was it rained the whole second half, so I was already wet. So it was a nice surprise. Not too many people knew about it, so I didn't want to make it a big deal because it certainly isn't about me. But our kids, our kids found out after the game, and
Hey, I want to ask you one thing. I want to ask you one thing before you get away, and you just brought this up about the hour and 10-minute bus ride. I have asked coaches repeatedly over the years, and they always, I think, give me that coach speak answer. No, it doesn't make any difference where we play. We play our brand of football, and we'll be fine. I've never bought that. You just kind of gave me a hint that you don't buy that either. I think it's at a tremendous advantage to drive 5 minutes to get to work.
It is. I tell you what, it is. And if we were making that hour and 10-minute drive, I probably wouldn't be talking to you guys tonight because I'd be freaking out. So, I think it definitely is an advantage. And I think playing at City Park is an advantage because it's just different down there. I know when I coached at City Park as an opposing coach in 2017, when we brought our Troy team there, it's different. And you try to tell the kids how different it is. There's no track. The stands are right there. There's trees in one, there's a pool in one end zone, a street in the other end. It's different. It's an awesome setting for us because our kids love playing down there. Our fans love being down there. So we do think that's a huge advantage for anybody that comes to City Park. But then when you got to drive over an hour to come there, I think it's even more of an advantage.
Matt, we did have one question on Facebook asking if you're still coaching with your dad. So I know they want to hear you talk about Charlie.
Absolutely. Dad's still plugging away. He's still our defense coordinator. He did have some knee issues this year. So he had surgery October 11th, had his knee replaced again. Doctor went in there, did the surgery. Part of his femur crumbled there at the bottom when they were doing surgery because it's been bone on bone for about 10 weeks. But he was hard-headed and didn't want to have surgery till after the Piqua game, so he got the surgery done, and he's doing well. He was out there at practice today. I probably shouldn't say this on air, but he's out there at practice without his walker and, yelling and getting on the kids and, fired up just like he always is. So, he's back to normal. He's got that new knee in him and he's feeling good now.
Well, we wish you well on Friday night for sure.
Yeah. Well, we don't know what we're going to do with him on Friday. Being there on the sidelines, that could be a little dangerous just with how fast and the game has turned into. So we'll find him a place. We'll perch him up somewhere where he can't be touched. And, I know last Friday night he was up in the pool watching the game with his leg elevated. And, And, we didn't get off to a real good start last week. And I know the piece of paper he had in his hand didn't last very long. It got crumbled up and everything else. But, he's been doing it for how many years? 50 years, and absolutely still loves it, has more energy than I do sometimes. So, it's great having him on staff, and he's probably forgot more about football than I know about football. And I know our kids just absolutely love him.
Wait a minute. How about Hulsman? Has he sent his suggestions in yet?
Hulsman texts me about once a week, during the UC Notre Dame week.
Yeah.
A day. But yeah, he gives his suggestions, and he said he's the best offensive coordinator ever made. And that I should have hired him a long time ago. But I keep asking for his resume, but I still haven't gotten it yet.
Very good.
Well, Matt, congratulations on a great year. Good luck on Friday night, and we'll look forward to hoping the Red Devils are playing in week 2 of the playoffs. You'll have a tall order that night. I know you got your hands full on Friday, but we certainly wish you well.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate your guys' support and what you guys do for Ohio high school sports. It's awesome what you guys do, and checking that website out. I enjoy reading all those articles. So
we'll be there Friday.
All right. Sounds good. We'll have a great seat for you.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Matt. Good luck.
All right. Thank you.
Matt Burgbacher, one of the really good guys, and we are blessed with a bunch of them who
one of the really good guys. I've known him for so long, and I don't know if I've ever had a bad moment with him. He is just to talk to, whether he wins or loses, he's the same.
Yeah, he's pretty special. So they got that's a tough one. When you're playing 7-10, anything can happen. And I'm glad that they've gotten a look at Mount Healthy before. And certainly, it's not a bad thing if you've lost to them once, because your sophomores will certainly remember that one. And then last year you had a tough one and pulled it out. So you got the belief and got them at home. And so we're hoping that they will get that one and move on. And I think Monroe is the second seed in that one that the winner is most likely to get. Although, as he said, Kettering Alders 15, Alders 5-5. They're not to be trifled with typically. So we'll see how that game comes out. We are going to also be covering on Friday night, and this is where I get a little foggy on what we agreed on. Friday night is divisions 1, 2, 3, and 4, right?
Well, let's start with the Piqua game, because I'll be at that game personally, and it's my first person-to-person look at the Indians, and I can't wait to see them play this year.
Tell people why you're covering Piqua on Friday night.
Well, they're close.
Yeah, that's not why.
They're close.
Somebody ran into you in a grocery store, did they not? Did I hear that story?
Well, that's true. That's true. The coach's wife, I did run into Bill Neese's wife at the grocery store. She did question about when I was going to show up to see an Indians game, but I'm looking very forward to watching them on a Friday night. They are immensely talented. In fact, I have it from every good source you can think of that they may be as much or better in terms of overall talent and speed, experience, and everything than the 2016 that won the Division II title with Brandon Sane. So They are legit. The only question that anybody has about them is strength of schedule this year. And Little Miami's coming in with a 4-6 mark. And the 16th team seated 16th in the region. I did a little sleuthing myself, and the one thing I will say, 4 of their 6 losses comes to teams that Piqua is going to have to deal with eventually. They lost to Kings. They lost to LaSalle. I think they lost to Anderson. They lost to Turpin. Those are all good football teams, and they played each one of those teams competitively. So I know if you ask Bill tonight, hey, tell me a little bit about Little Miami, he's going to say, well, 4-6 doesn't tell the tale, because they played competitively against some very good football teams and teams that Piqua will eventually have to deal with themselves.
We are also going to cover this weekend on Friday night. We'll have 2 games in Central Ohio where our Division I teams are playing. And we are stacked up in Division I in Central Ohio. We have Marysville, Upper Arlington, both ranked in the top 5 of the state. New Albany is in the top 10. Pickerington Central, Pickerington North are right there. Really good football teams. So we got 5 of the probably 10 or 11 best teams in Ohio, and the rankings are D1 teams that we cover in Central Ohio. Our games Friday night will be Olentangy Liberty, 5-5 this season, and a perennial playoff team when it's not 16 teams in a region. Olentangy Liberty will be playing at Dublin Jerome. And we will also be covering Reynoldsburg at Hilliard Davidson. Now, Reynoldsburg is 4-5. They're the 9 seed. Davidson is 7-3. They're the 8 seed. It's a little bit of an interesting matchup because Reynoldsburg lost its first 4 games, 3 of them, I think, by 4 combined points. Reynoldsburg was way ahead of Upper Arlington in the season opener when nobody knew Upper Arlington was going to go 10-0, including Justin Buttermore, the head coach at Upper Arlington. And Reynoldsburg has got some players, man, and they gave, I believe it was Pick North, all it wanted last week in a division battle in the OCC for the division championship. So those are our 2 games in Central Ohio. We'll also on Friday night, or we will get Milton Union and Indian Hill on Friday night.
Here we go. That's a game I wish I could. If I could do that old Superman episode where you could be 2 places at the same time, I would love to be where you're going to be on Friday night at Memorial Stadium to see that, because I was very impressed to see Milton in person last weekend up at Riverside. Riverside's a good football team. Yeah. There's no question about that. Their quarterback, Miles Plattfoot, is a playmaker, a facilitator. They've got a good running back behind them. They've got a kid named Landon Stewart that made plays all over the field all night long. So they're a good football team, and whoever runs into them, and that name escapes me right now, is going to have
Indian Hill. That's going to be Indian Hill.
No, I'm talking about Riverside, but whoever runs into Riverside Friday night's going to, or Saturday night's going to have their hands full too. But Milton Union is, you talk about a 7. I don't know how they're 7 in their region. Now, Brett Pierce talks about how good the region is. And there's Clinton Massey's and Wyoming's and some good football teams in it. But I don't think there's 3 teams in that region that are better than the Milton Union team I saw the other night. When you talk about Newmeyer and you talk about Blake Broomball, who's one of the 2 most dynamic players I've seen this year. You saw him 2 weeks ago, and you had the same opinion. Milton Union's for real. They can play defense. They can score. They've got good special teams. They're well coached. They are well seasoned. They've got good experience, and they're impressive. They're going to be a tough out for somebody.
Well, that is a very tough region. You've got McNicholas in there. They are the 3. You've got Graham in that region. You have Waverly is the 5. Clinton Massey is the 4. Some really good football teams, and Cincinnati, Wyoming is the top seed in that one. So, but I'm with you. I think Milton has 3 guys that can really hurt you on the offensive side of the football, and their defense has given up nothing, and they've played consequential football games. You know, a lot of these teams, Sonny, have played the string out at the end of the season, and I always think you kind of lose your edge at the end of the season when you're just kind of coasting into the playoffs. Milton's not been able to do that. They had to beat Northridge in week 9 to stay atop the TRC, and then they had to beat Riverside in week 10 to win the TRC outright. And if I'm Brett Pierce, I like the fact that my football team has been dialed in, locked in, and played really 2 excellent football teams and excellent football games the last 2 weeks.
I think it's a telling thing about Milton too that they beat Valley View on week 2. Because you're 2 weeks into the season, you don't have your wits about you. You don't have everything ironed out, smooth. You're not sophisticated yet in any particular part of your game. And Valley View is a tough team to beat. And to go in there, and it's week 2 for them too, I might add. But to go in there man to man and just fight it out with them and come out a winner, an impressive winner in that game the way they did. And I know Brett felt very good about that game because I called him that night after the game, and he said, hey, our kids left it all on the field. And they're that type of program on a given night. And they're a much better team now than they were on week 2. So given that and the point that you just made about having to play some consequential games down the stretch, it puzzles me why that is a number 17 or 7 ranked team in their region.
Well, they're playing in the TRC with a lot of D7 teams. I mean, you're in there with Covington, you're in there with Troy Christian. Help me out here, but they are they not the highest, the biggest school in that region? Would they not be, or the biggest school in that league?
Well, if that's the case, Pickle wouldn't be number 1 in their region because they're in a region with Kings and Turpin and the Andersons and people like that. And the NBL North this year has not been strong by any stretch of the imagination, but Piqua is still number one in the region, and probably deservedly so, because they are that talented. So somebody felt like they should be number one, notwithstanding the schedule. So again, the consistency eludes me as to why all these teams are in it in the first place. And it just seems like it has watered down the process, where teams like Milton Union, which I guarantee you is better than the seventh team in that region, is in the position they are. Now, to your point, or to Matt Burgbacher's point a moment ago, you got to play everybody.
Yeah.
You got to beat everybody at some point. So, you might as well beat them early or late. Doesn't matter. You got to beat them. But it's just hard to understand how some teams are ranked where they are.
A couple more Facebook comments tonight. You guys are very active on Facebook. Jeff shouting out Coach Burgbacher, says he's a class act, real players coach. We second and third that, of course. Tom says, go Tip City. And Josh writes us a long message. He said, if Little Miami should have had more playoff points for playing a tough schedule, how did Piqua play a tough schedule? Why is Little Miami ranked 16th below everybody Piqua beat? Well, I guess Little Miami won 4 games. Did you not say that, Sonny?
They did. They finished 4-6. And again, if you get points for losing to tough teams, they played some. They played the Kings, they played the Andersons, they played the Turpins, and played them competitively. And there you go. They end up 16th.
So Tim wants to know my opinion of Mechanicsburg after seeing the Indians play on Friday night against West Jefferson. All right, let me say that I was expecting something a little bit different than I got. We had Sean Bisher, the head coach at West Jefferson, on the show last week, and he talked about their offense being very, very multiple. So I was expecting a lot of esoteric formations and things like that. And what I got instead was just a flat out, no holds barred, we're going to run the ball and we dare you to stop us football team. And the only real variation that I saw, and I'm not really a formation guy and I'm not super into the nuances, but sometimes they put Jake Hurst, their outstanding tailback, sometimes they split him off the tight end to get another blocker on the edge, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes he's in the backfield, and Aaron Conley, the quarterback, hands him the football. But Conley carried the ball 5 consecutive times down by the end zone on their 17-play, 91-yard drive, Sonny, to open the second half. 17-play, 91-yard drive that took 10 minutes off the clock. How would you like to not be receiving the second half kickoff and be given the football with 1:50 to go in the third quarter, first time you got your hands on it? That's what Mechanicsburg can do to you. And I will say that I have not seen a team of relatively modestly sized players play harder than Mechanicsburg all season long. And specifically, and I felt bad I didn't get to talk to this young man after the game because he deserved to be quoted in the game story, Levi Millage, number 55. Sonny, he did a Joey Bosa on West Jeff. He rushed off the edge and pushed the offensive tackle so far back into the quarterback that the offensive tackle tackled the quarterback. Levi Millage. He's a beast.
The best description I ever heard anybody give of Mechanicsburg football, somebody said a few years ago when they played Minster in a first-round game when Garen Stokes was up there, that Mechanicsburg looks like wrestling in cleats because they're just that physical, and they're on you from the first snap to the last snap of the game. It's just a relentless physical challenge for the teams that they play. They never it's cliche to say somebody doesn't take a play off or they play to the echo of the whistle, but that really does describe what Kirk Forrest's football team has played ever since he has been there. And they were good long before Kirk Forrest got there. They were competitive, have been for a long time. So they're very proud of what they have, of what they've established over there. And one of these years, they really believe that they're going to break through and get to Canton.
Now, they do throw the ball more than they're not all run. They can throw it. I just don't know if they got behind in a football game, if they can throw it well enough to come back. That's my question about them as they go into the playoffs. Sonny mentioned Coach Forrest. He did also, in addition to Coach Burgbacher, who got his 100th win Friday, Coach Forrest did as well. He's been at the Berg 12 years, so congratulations to him as well. It's quite a landmark win for him.
You know, when you look at the rest of it, we haven't talked about Saturday. I'm going to get to Saturday.
Yeah. So here we got divisions 1, 2, 3, and 4 on Friday. Divisions 5, 6, and 7 on Saturday. And am I correct? On Saturday, we are covering Summit Country Day at Versailles in Division 5.
Division 5.
We are covering Lockland at New Bremen
in Division 7.
10 at 7. Are we covering a third game?
We do have a third game.
Fort Laramie or Fort Recovery at Arcanum? Or are we doing
that? Would be our third game. Yeah, Fort Recovery at Arcanum is our third game.
Recovery at Arcanum. Okay, very good.
3 very interesting games and 3 very different games.
Yeah.
And I know you're going to ask me here in a moment. This is a good time to bring this up. Do you have anything on Reader Speaks this week? I have Roger here from Miami County asked me, who is your dark horse team to get to Canton this year? Of all the area playoff teams, what would be your dark horse team? I don't know that they can or they will, but my favorite dark horse is the New Bremen Cardinals. They're 7-3, and I know Keith Brooks is probably listening from Florida tonight. He coached there many, many, many years ago, and I have yet to see a team that on a given night can come out and you talk about dynamic playmakers. David Holman, we mentioned him earlier when Matt was on here. You've seen him play. You know what his qualities are. He makes them a very, very difficult football team to defend because he can run it for 200 yards and he can throw it for 200 yards. And they've got athletes that have progressively gotten better throughout the season. And to the best of my knowledge, they're healthy. So they're going to have a good matchup with Lockland on Saturday night. I'm anxious to see that because Lockland is 4-4. They come out of Cincinnati. There are just hard scrapple kids that are athletic, don't have a lot of advantage going for them in terms of facilities or anything like that. They just want a chance to play. And if it's basketball or football, it really doesn't matter. They sort of play the same way. They come out a little bit like Mechanicsburg and get after you. So that's going to be a very interesting game. The Division 5 game will be Summit Country Day, I think, is a little bit maybe in over their head against Versailles because I continue to think Versailles is one of those teams that literally gets a little bit better in some area every week. They're going to be very impressive. They're going to be a tough out if they have to play Roger Bacon again in that region. That's going to be a good team. And then the other game, and we wrote about this for our picks column, Fort Recovery, which is a team that's ranked 4th or 5th in the MAC in rushing yardage against a team that doesn't know what the rush means anymore in Arcanum because Bryce Schondemeyer got his 3,000th yard passing the other night. And I know there's a lot of people who say, yeah, 3,000 yards against 2. But you know what? 3,000 yards is a lot of work, a lot of timing, a lot of 5 guys that are out there that are running free in the secondary. And you know, you got to survive. And a lot of those passes that he's completed, he's done on the run. So you're going to have 2 completely different styles of football in that game. And that's going to be a tough challenge for an 8-2 Arcanum team against a 3-6. I think they're 3-6 for Recovery.
Well, in that vein, let me run through a couple more games on Saturday night. Sonny mentioned top-seeded Marion Local will play Twin Valley South. We have Ansonia's an 11. They're playing at St. Henry. Coldwater is the 4 in its region. Coldwater is playing Delphus. And as you mentioned, Versailles and Summit Country Day. We did not mention Troy. I don't think Troy's playing Withrow on Friday night. That's a 9 and an 8. I'm going to pick. Pardon me?
On the road, Troy has to go to Cincinnati to play that game.
I'm going to pick as my dark horse. I mean, is a 4 seed a dark horse?
Could be this year.
I mean, I can't believe Coldwater is a 4 seed. And
not a dark horse.
I want to see the game in 3 weeks, Coldwater at Mechanicsburg. Now, I don't know. They play the 3rd round at home sites or do they play it at neutral sites?
That's at a neutral site, but they're no dark horse. And
no, they're not a dark horse.
I'll tell you right.
I would say Coldwater's a 4. I'm going to take Coldwater all day long. I like Versailles as a 5 too. I really do. I think Versailles could beat Taft. I think Versailles would love another shot at Roger Bacon. Now that Roger Bacon's running back is at LSU, is he not? So, yeah, they gave Roger Bacon all wanted last year. So I like Mercedes.
They're not a dark horse, though. That's a team that everybody's had high expectations from two-a-days. And, they were good last year. They're better this year. They've really come of age this year in terms of the experience they didn't have last year. I think they have learned something from a couple of tough losses along the way to Marion Local. And I don't consider them a dark horse. The reason I would consider New Bremen a dark horse, even though they're the defending state champion, they lost 16 seniors. Their starting quarterback, their starting linebacker, their starting running back. They lost a lot of key impact players off that team, plugged in some 16 juniors and haven't missed a beat. Plus, they've got, a first-year quarterback who was a sophomore last year, and David Holman, who didn't even play quarterback last year. Right. So that's why I would consider them a dark horse. They lost so much and had to replace so much this year, and still they're a 7-3 team, and they're going to be an interesting team every time they take the field.
Now, Tim, who asked me earlier about Mechanicsburg, shares my view of the Berg throwing the football. That's his primary concern. He says when they play a Coldwater, they can be too predictable at times. Now, did those two teams not meet fairly recently in the playoffs, Sonny?
Yeah, it was 2 or 3 years ago, I think. Now they played, I thought it was last year, but it was West Jefferson they played last year in Coldwater. So now the problem is not throwing the ball against Coldwater, because I think if you ask anybody around, how would you best attack Coldwater's defense? I think you run right at them. They're athletic enough where they do a pretty good job of covering the other team's passing game. What really bothers you about playing Coldwater is they have so many weapons on offense. And Tim likes to talk about spreading the wealth. They've got 5-6 guys like Arcanum that can go out there and make a big play for you down the field. And their quarterback is always capable of throwing it over the top of the defense. They'll draw you in, suck you in, make you bring your safeties up to defend the run game, defend the quarterback trying to run the ball, and then the next thing you know, right down the stovepipe and into the end zone. So that's the challenge of playing Coldwater.
Well, and Tim also wants to know about Anna and its ability to go into Springfield and get a victory. What about Anna taking on, I think it's Northeastern?
I would like Anna in that game. I think Anna was 4-6 this year, and I think they were a better football team maybe than 4-6. They'd probably be 6-4 and 7-3 if they didn't play in the MAC. I saw them once against New Bremen. New Bremen was overwhelming that night, and not much went well for Anna that night. But David Holman had a huge night against the Rockets. They're a tough 4-6 team, and I wouldn't bet against them beating Northeastern.
All right. The reader speaks. Anything else you want to share before we get on out of here on a
just Tuesday? Gave you my best reader speaks. Somebody wanted to know who my dark horse was. You told me who yours was. I go back and I say it's New Bremen.
Okay, very good. Well, as always, we want to remind you that the playoffs arrived here before we thought they would. It seems like we just blinked our eye and we were back in August, week 1. Now we've got 10 weeks of the regular season behind us. Our playoff season will last only half that long, 5 weeks, which means now's the time for you to click on visitcanton.com, because visitcanton.com is not only the presenting sponsor of the Press Pros Huddle, but it's also the place for you to go to get your hotel rooms for state championship weekend. It is going to be a phenomenal weekend of football. 7 title games spread out over 3 days. It's going to be a phenomenal show in a stadium that has just no peer in the state of Ohio for that kind of championship to be staged. I know Ohio Stadium is, a beautiful venue, and I'm sure there are others, Brown Stadium and Paul Brown Stadium. But when you're talking about a high school football game where communities come together, there's nothing like the remodeled Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium right beside the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You can go in there at any point in the weekend, and it's going to be a phenomenal weekend. We were stoked the minute we heard it was going to be back in Stark County. We thought it might be at Massillon, and that would have been a fine choice as well, but it's at Tom Benson. So go to visitcanton.com, click on those logos and those links in the PressProsMagazine.com content. It'll take you right where you need to go to find out what you can do when you're not watching football that weekend in Canton, Ohio.
We're talking to everybody except again, if you're from Oak Hills, give it 2 or 3 weeks before you make reservations.
Yeah, we had one other comment that somebody, I think it's Lorraine, is 1-9, and Lorraine is playing St. Ed's.
Yeah, that's another one. That's another one. But at least they got one.
Yeah. So Chris says, great show tonight. We appreciate that. Debbie says that we are rock stars. And Debbie, that's very nice of you to say. And we will give Debbie the honors tonight, Sonny, with the Press Pros signature sign off.
Truman, go to bed.
Time.
There you go. Hey, go back to Chris. Go back to Chris Cavender a minute.
Okay, Chris Cavender.
Go back to his that photo you ran there. Had it up on for a minute. That's a good looking. That's a good looking future running back right there.
That's a good looking young man right there. Yes, it is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well done, Chris.
Well done. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. If you catch us on the replay, thank you for watching. Remember to patronize our PressProsMagazine.com sponsors. We appreciate all you guys reading the site. Buckeyes will be taking on Penn State. We just spent some time talking about that, but really, in light of Penn State losing 2 in a row, it's not that really big of a game now.
Illinois.
Yeah, Penn State's number 20. So I'm not sure LSU or USC will want James Franklin as coach after what Ohio State does to him this weekend. But we may talk about that next week. But we got high school football playoffs are here. I cannot wait. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you on the site and see you out at the games. Have a great night, and Truman, go to bed.